Last time on Pokemon Nuzlocke. Well, it's not a good matchup for you, buddy, but I believe in you. You can kill this one all on your own. Good job. Good job. I can't believe I put so much time into this already. Look at you. Put somebody 2 levels ahead of you. I'm so proud. You got this one too, bud. No, you don't. What does Curse do? Oh, okay. I don't want her so bad. Be poisoned and stay poisoned. I don't really want to hurt you. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on! You got this. So close. No, your attack missed. Come on, Dumpy. Potion. Because I care about you so much. What do you mean? What do you... No! I don't know if I want to ever play again. She was my guy. Okay, I clearly haven't recovered from the emotional crippling of losing Bertha, but I'm so depressed that I'm just ready to end this now. Thank fucking God. Oh. My heart is unwell. No. No, 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 okay. A red ice self-destructed on him.
Classic. Classic.
I put a lot of love and care into these guys, you know. I don't think I can play this. I don't think I can do this. And just, like, the devastation that's about to happen to my soul, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think I should keep playing this. Hello. Hi. So, in a video of mine playing through my first Pokemon Nuzlocke on an emulator for Ruby, I quit. I don't like calling it quitting, not because that's not what happened, but because it sounds like that's a decision that I made because I was fed up or bored or mad. And the truth was, and I'm sure it was evident because I was basically about to cry, I quit because I saw the game mode was bad for my mental health and needed to stop for my own good. It's not that I didn't care, I cared way too fucking much. Which is a me problem. I know it is. How goddamn special do you gotta be to not be able to play a Pokemon game, right? But for reference, Nuzlocke is different. Nuzlocke's premise is that when your Pokemon die, they die. And in most, like, 99% cases of booting up the game generator, because Pokemon spawns are randomized, you can and will lose. It's not about the type of game it is that's the great conflict, it was the playstyle. Or that's how I've managed to deduce things, but feel free to dissect my weakness in the comments as you like. On this channel, no matter what game I am playing, you will find that I am an investor. My time, my effort, my emotions. I hoard items I probably don't need on the off chance that I might need them later. I have a hard time not being good in games because I want NPCs to like me, because I like them. I invest in my games, and Nuzlocke as a game mode is not designed to reward those who do, which means that it's a bit devastating to overinvestors like myself. I was going to leave it at what I said in my video, that the payoff isn't worth the reward because I know I'm not winning statistically, I'm just not, but I am also the person that wants to win. So bad. It's not just about winning though, it's about trying my hardest. I have to try my hardest no matter what. As much as I know I shouldn't, I can't help myself. And that was the moment that I stopped. One of my Pokemon team that had been with me from my opening party died to a boss leader. Soon after, their replacement died to a legendary by a random trainer that used a self-destruct move. I was running around in a bush trying to level up their stand-ins who were far more than 10 levels behind, and it just hit me. I was going to waste hours of my life mindlessly, overcautiously leveling up Pokemon that I was definitely going to lose to a matchup I can't control. And for what? To be devastated by that loss, to invest more just to hurt more. I know it sounds dramatic, but time invested becomes emotions invested. I care about my Pokemon, if you can't tell by how affectionately I encourage them, But on a realer level, a less stupid snowflake level, I put that effort in because I am trying to invest in myself. I am trying to do everything in my power to win because that will make me feel good when I do. But in that moment, I realized that I am throwing it all into a pit, to the void. I am actively doing something that is not going to pay off. I am putting time and love into something that is going to hurt me. I wish I was just being pessimistic, but even if I sat in that bush and grinded my party to level 100 for days, I still think there's a high chance I'd lose anyway to some bullshit moves that KO your Pokemon no matter what. And I was already so upset about Bertha dying that I don't think I could have handled that happening to Pokemon that I've spent even more investment in. I was about to actively make myself more miserable. And, well, for fucking what? I understand the value of gamers who actively play games they don't enjoy. A lot of the biggest gamers in the world got big by doing that. People love watching horror gameplays by people who aren't good at interacting with horror because they provide a means for the viewer to vicariously overcome those hurdles themselves. But also, it's not fun watching someone who is unaffected by them do so. We need to see ourselves in that struggle. But it's taxing on them, and usually doesn't last long because the payoff isn't worth it. At some point, they have to draw that line, and I guess I hit my line. Not just because I didn't have a payoff to start with, but because I couldn't handle my own consequences. Maybe I could do content like that, or Nuzlocke in the future, but I'd have to be doing it for the viewers. If it's not for someone else, then all I'm doing is putting myself through torture. With my partner, I watch a fair few gamers that play Pokemon gameplays like Nuzlocke and Ironmon, so I thought it would be fun. But the key to doing content like that is their desensitization to losing. Of course, they want each run to happen to be that 1 in 1,000 run that actually has a shot at winning, but they're not under the impression or giving each run the initial investment that it is, which is what allows them to handle the continuous loss, unlike me. The funny thing is, on top of saying all that, playing Nuzlocke was supposed to kind of be a test for me, personally. When I was younger, both as a kid and a teenager who finally got their hands on a real Pokemon game, I did not handle losing well. I didn't have Pokemon as a kid, but I did have Monster Rancher Battle Card game for the Game Boy Color, which functions pretty similarly. You have a team of monsters that you fight with in runes full of kids and baddies, and the biggest difference being that your moves are based on a deck and not PP. I had a very hard time losing. I literally refused to. If I blacked out from losing a battle in any similar type game, I'd hit the power button before I could respawn. That way, it was like it never happened yet. I couldn't be the very best, like no one ever was, if I suffered a defeat. That is not the point of the Pokemon anime that I grew up on. Obviously, I missed the point. Ash loses all the time, and the point is that he grows from the experience. But as the omnipresent child that is God, presiding over that whole universe inside of that game console, I got anxiety and I couldn't let down the game by not being perfect and therefore being allowed to beat it. I know, kid logic is crazy, but it was also rooted in a perfectionist mentality that I'd adapted in school. Being a straight A student without struggling, actually struggling at anything made me feel absurdly inadequate, and I had a hard time accepting that, and it came out very prevalent in my incapacity to play games through humbly. As an adult now, and recognizing that pattern I indulged as a child, I thought that Nuzlocke was going to be a great exercise in overcoming my inability to accept defeat. In Nuzlocke, I can't turn the game off and pretend that that trainer didn't best me. My Pokemon die, and I have to live with that. And at the start of my first Nuzlocke run, I think that was really healthy for me, forcing myself to play through a loss, accepting that imperfection and the consequences. But as I got farther into the playthrough, it became apparent that there was a new problem that the game mode presented. I'm not just oversensitive to failure, I'm also a prepper. I want to do well. Everyone does. But I am willing to go an absurd length to secure my victory, to the point where that wasn't healthy, because I was investing too much into something that was also inevitably going to break my heart. Although I was accepting responsibility for my Pokemon's death, I was also putting the responsibility of the possibility of their death entirely on myself. If they died, I was going to take it as my failure. And that's not how Nuzlocke works. It's luck over skill. I was trying to control something uncontrollable, on top of the fact that I was deeply emotionally invested in my Pokemon team because I'm stupid and that's just what I do. So as I was at that point where I was about to take on the 4th gym with my entire team underleveled and 2 of the members a dozen levels even from catching up to the rest of them, running around in a bush, making so little progress scaling up that it was a prospect that would take hours of my life, only for me to get to the gym and more than likely lose to some unforeseeable bad luck no matter how hard I grinded. It was apparent that this was no longer a practice in my inability to accept defeat in the normal sense. Defeat was inevitable. I knew that. It was now a practice in how capable I am at not over-investing at my attempt to not meet defeat anyway. As much as I know it's coming, I still try to put my best foot forward. This goes for in games and in real life. I will routinely put myself at a great detriment just to be able to say that I tried my best, regardless of how things actually play out. But trying your best in Nuzlocke is masochistic. The more effort I put into giving my Pokemon a fighting chance was just how much more I was going to be hurt by their deaths. It wasn't about my failure to defeat the gym anymore. The priority was my team and their lives and me letting them down. Am I a little fucking snowflake? Okay, yes, maybe. But I love my Pokemon, and playing Nuzlocke was no longer the original challenge that I'd set out for myself. I've grown up and I can accept my failures now, I think. I hope. But I haven't grown up enough to accept that the lives of digital beings don't matter, or be able to not get upset by letting them down. After everything I said, and the reason I set out to play Nuzlocke in the first place, I am willing to accept that shortcoming in myself. At least I'm not cheating and resetting my Nuzlocke runs, but I am just too emotionally invested to complete it because that means death to everyone that I love and care about. So as much as I'm not going to complete my first Nuzlocke, unless someone pays me $1,000. I have a Ko-fi. It will be available as an option to buy on there, I guess. I think that my first step as a gamer that's trying to self-improve through how I game is to play through a Pokemon game, normally, and see that through to the end. I've played a version of every Pokemon generation all the way up to Black and White, and then skipped to Arceus and Scarlet, but I have never completed a game. Although I've gotten darn close to a full Pokedex in Arceus. I have never become the champion. I'd say I've never beat the Elite Four, but I have in Heart Gold, but there's a whole other realm to beat after that, so that doesn't count as the end anyway. So why haven't I beat a Pokemon game? Well, it's not attention span, I can tell you that much. Actually, it was the exact same thing that I brought up earlier. Overinvestment. I would spend so much time grinding my Pokemon up to level before facing the Elite Four that I would wear myself out and be bored and not even care about beating them anymore. I'd put in my time. I was satisfied. I was done. So I think the true test of my growth as a gamer isn't to force myself into a situation like Nuzlocke where the outcome is meant to be loss without a genuine shot to succeed. It's to play through a whole game, to accept when I lose to a trainer and blackout, and not to fixate on preparing for a battle to the point where I burn myself out. I don't need to grind that hard if I'm willing to lose to a gym and try again, right? I can fix one of my hangups by overcoming another. Please let me know in the comments below if you can relate to any of the things that I talked about in this video, like having a petulant inner child that would rather close a game and lose progress than lose a non-consequential battle, which is not the same as restarting a save file in a game where there are actually plot-affecting consequences. Let me be clear on that. Also, please tell me that I am not the only one out there that gets this ridiculously invested in my Pokemon. When Bertha died, I did almost cry. And as always, feel free to leave suggestions about what you'd like to see me play next. I really would like to introduce you all to Monster Rancher's battle card as my experiment in playing through a loss in this game type, but I know it's not very exciting of a game. I don't know if anyone else has even heard of it, honestly. Whenever I bring it up, people have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, thanks for listening to my confessionals. I'll see you in another gaming video after my heart recovers. Bye.